So folks, I apologize for the delay. I'm having a problem getting Zoom to connect with YouTube, so bear with me for just a moment. We actually, I believe, are live, but there's no video at the moment, so please hang on. Okay, I do apologize for the delay, Ms. Snyder. We are live.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Village of Golf Manors Executive Committee meeting today, January 11th, 2021. And Happy New Year. May we begin with
Ms. Chaney?
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff? Mr. Pridnoff is not present. Mr. Simile?
Yes, here.
Ms. Snyder?
here.
And Mr. Wilkinson?
Here.
Mr. Pridnoff is not present. We will need a motion to excuse Mr. Pridnoff.
Motion to excuse.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Has everyone had a chance to look at tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in
Ms.
favor?
Snyder,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hirth?
Let's see. I'm quickly trying to find my agenda here real quick. So this is the first meeting of your new year. There are no changes in the committee at this present time, but as a matter of housekeeping, the committee does need to adopt Robert's Rules of Order as amended by council from last year's reorganization. You can do that by a simple motion, a second, and then just a voice vote.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt Robert's rules?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have nobody here to address our committee, so we can move on to old business, Mr. Hirth.
Let's
Do
see.
we have minutes to approve?
Oh, yes, sorry.
You do.
All right, let's see. Has everyone reviewed the minutes from November 9th?
Yes. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. Now on to old business.
Okay, I'm waiting for my agenda to come up here. I believe the first thing on is the Vera Road project.
Yes.
So final engineering has been completed. Our road engineer, Courtney Larley, is receiving the finished plans sometime this week. After they've had a chance to digest those and we've had a chance to take a quick look at them, it appears that bids for the project will be solicited sometime in February to be submitted by the end of February. And what we'll be doing probably in that first council meeting in March is asking council to approve the expenditure of the funds to move forward with that project. So it looks like construction will start sometime between the 1st and the 15th of March. It'll start with the replacement of the water lines and then the removal of the curbs and then whatever understructure under the actual asphalt that needs to be replaced. And then it looks like it will be a 4 to 6 month long project, wrapping up sometime, hopefully by the fall. We will be announcing this project to the residents by letter after we've received the bids and we've accepted a bid, which tells us we are definitely moving forward with the project. Just a reminder that this project will encompass what we're calling the Vera corridor, which is Elbrook from LaSantaville to the Amberley Village Corporation line, and then the entire length of Vera from Elbrook to the very end of the street, and then the service drive on the northern end of Vera. That that particular drive will just be a redo of the substrate and then the asphalt. So it's a fairly involved project. We'll be spending close to $1 million to complete that. It's exciting. We're hoping to have this done quickly and seamlessly. One of the things that we will do with the residents is I'll be sending the road engineer out sometime in March to take a look at sidewalks along the length of Vera. There are sidewalks over on the southern side of Vera across, I believe, from Miss Cheney. And those will offer a program like we did with Stover Avenue. The residents are responsible for replacing the sidewalk. We will not require a complete tear out and redo of the entire sidewalk. However, we will do replacement on blocks that need to be replaced. So we're not repairing blocks, we're replacing blocks. We'll get a fairly good rate on that based on what the construction company will offer us. Then the homeowners will have the ability to either write a check for those replacements, or those will be put on their taxes in 2023 and paid over a 3-year period. So it'll be a very similar program to what we did with Stover. Any questions about that at this point?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Moving along, there really is nothing new to report on the vacant building ordinance. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get down to the job description for the code enforcement officer, or official rather. Ms. Snyder, do you want to talk a little bit about We Thrive and the meetings we have at this point, or do you want me to take that?
You're welcome to take that.
Okay. So, as you may remember, We Thrive is a program that we joined 2 years ago with the Hamilton County Public Health District. And We Thrive is a group of residents who organize to help disseminate information about staying healthy and active and connected in the communities where this program is functioning. What it requires, and we lost traction on this last year because of COVID, we have not appointed a committee at this point. We've had a couple of organizational meetings. Jacqueline Threadgill, who is a resident on Elbrook, and oh man, his name just escaped me. I'm sorry, Ashley.
Evan Conk.
Thank you. Evan, and I'm not sure, where does Evan live?
He lives on Ardmore.
Okay, so we have those two individuals who have kind of taken up the mantle to help us organize this effort. Um, how I see We Thrive functioning is, even though this is an extension of council, this would be a group that's run specifically by the residents. We will support them. We will give them whatever information that we need or help them gather information, but it will truly be driven by residents. We have our representative, Christy Iwasako from Hamilton County, who's assisting with these meetings, and also helping us connect with other neighborhoods who have been the most successful. And there's lots of different models for We Thrive out in the community. Some of them include some of the legislators in their committees and are driven by those people. Other of them have no elected officials or legislators. And each does something different, but it's all with the intent to support and promote wellness and connection within the community. So we are looking forward to having more discussion in the next couple of weeks, and then to be able to talk. I would hope, Ms. Snyder, by the next executive committee meeting, we'll have some specifics on the organization of this particular function.
Yes, we do hope to have our 2 neighborhood navigator positions filled, I believe, by tomorrow. So that's one step closer to getting that committee formed.
And that call is tomorrow, right? I believe.
Yes,
Okay.
at 4.
Okay. So that's where we are with We Thrive.
Yes, and so moving on to the job description for the code enforcement official position. Does anyone have any questions regarding that job description?
So
No.
first of all, let me ask, did everybody have a chance to read it?
Yes.
Everybody read it. Yay. Okay. So this position is going to be a huge step forward for the village in terms of helping us take control of some of the property maintenance issues, and also in helping our residents be able to connect to resources to help them comply with solving some of the property maintenance issues that we're having in the village. In addition to that, this position will also be responsible for helping Mr. Lanzer and I keep control of code enforcement when it comes to our building code. Thus, the position is called Code Enforcement Official. We are recommending, to begin with, that this position is a 20-hour per week job. The expectation is that 80% of that 20 hours a week will be spent, as they say, boots on the ground in the community, walking around, proactively looking for building, actually property maintenance issues, but also will be helping us get a hold of some of the smaller issues that have escaped us or do escape us because we're constantly dealing with larger things all the time. Our feeling is that some of the smaller stuff begets larger things, and it's going to be important for us to start trying to identify areas where we can improve, which we believe will help increase property values, which will help all of us who are property owners within the village of Gulf Manor. That being said, even though this is an enforcement position, whoever we hire for this position will also be responsible for working with the administration and identifying resources that, as an example, if we have an elderly resident who has a wall at the sidewalk that is deteriorated and falling down, our property maintenance guidelines require that that homeowner or property owner fixes that. We don't want to just be the police in terms of saying, you got to fix this. We would like to get to a point that we also have available resources where we can work with people working cooperatively, or Habitat for Humanity, or other agencies that are available to help provide resources or connections for people to get some of this stuff done. In the third year of our CDAP funding, which would be 2023, you might recall that in our application, we are recommending that we defer, I want to say it was $12,000 in funding to do a loan program, and I'm sorry, not a loan program, a grant program for residents up to a maximum amount that they can do repairs on the exterior of their home. I would see this position managing that program, along with helping us do some of the other initiatives, such as enforcing the vacant building ordinance, the landlord tenant registration process that we have that's related to our tax program. There's a lot of different things that this position can do. I would foresee this position becoming full-time at some point, because as Officer Matthews, if you're not aware, and Mr. Wilkinson, I don't know that you are aware of this, we have been using CDAP funding for the last 3 years in our code enforcement to fund Detective Matthews spending hours in a month doing property maintenance enforcement. And she has done such a good job and has helped so many people in being able to navigate some of the stuff that it now warrants that we have a person doing nothing but this, which is a tribute to the efforts that she's made in this particular area. So I'm excited. That job description covers pretty much everything that position could actually do. Probably isn't going to be doing everything that's in there initially, because there will be a ramp up period. There will be a break-in period in terms of kind of feeling our way through some of the stuff that needs to be done. Two things that I would point out is that this position does report to the village administrator. The reason being is that this, as the zoning official in the village, that falls to the administrator, and this person is an extension of making those things happen. That being the case, we will continue to use Detective Matthews when it comes to needing citing powers for anything that we need to go to the next level on and write citations. I would note that our approach is that we would prefer not to write citations for anything related to building issues. We would prefer to gain compliance, so we will work cooperatively and openly with folks to resolve things. But if it gets to a point where somebody is not responding to us or is being resistant in terms of complying with things that need to be done for public and health safety, then we move on to doing citations and involve them in our mayor's court. Second thing that I would point out is that ideally the candidate for this position will have had previous building code enforcement background or enforcement in some type of legal area. It is listed that the types of knowledge that can be gained to be qualified for this position would be, so you could do such things as have a high school diploma, have specific training in this arena, also business training, some of those other kinds of things. So our intent is to get you guys to weigh in on this evening. If you have feedback, I'll be glad to hear that. Then what I will do is take this job description to the Finance Committee on January 25th, and I will have a proposed salary for the position, and we will be asking for our finances approval and then ultimately council's approval to go ahead and post the position. I would hope to be able to do that by the 26th of January with the intent of having the position filled by the 1st of March. Boy, I just did a lot of talking.
Mr. Hirth, will this official also be handling the eventual property rental licensing and inspection?
I would see that person being a part of this discussion, and that may fall in that realm. I think what may happen is there are two functions that are split right now amongst other people in the administration. We have our assistant clerk who manages the landlord tenant relationship for us. I would see that falling under this position eventually, and then that's a natural break into managing the landlord licensing. So that all makes sense.
And will this person have an official vehicle, or will there be some way to identify him or her when they're out on the street?
Yes, in fact, what we do currently, obviously, Detective Matthews has her badge. When Mr. Lanzer is out, he has credentials that he carries with him and wears when he goes door to door. We'll have the same thing for this individual, in addition to having the Ford Escort, the 2008 Ford Escort, available to them to use for this official duty.
Great, thanks.
I had a question about the type of training, if I can ask that.
Sure.
Just like what kind of training and certification are going to be provided to the person?
So the village itself does not have specific training that we would give, other than asking this individual to closely follow our mission statement and various policies and procedures that we have in place. The actual building code training and property maintenance training would come from a third party, and we're currently searching for classes that are available. This is really good timing on this right now, because there are several various agencies across the state of Ohio that do provide training, and a lot of that is virtual now as opposed to being in person classes. So not only will the training be available, but the cost for us to send this individual to training will be attractive to us at this point, because it'll be at no cost. So,
Hey,
for the most
Ron.
part.
Hey, Ron, if I can jump in real fast.
Sure, please.
When I first volunteered to do some property maintenance work for the village, the county building department, who is responsible for building enforcement in the village, offered several training programs, including a 3-part just on property maintenance. And what they covered during those was essentially the most recent version of the International Property Maintenance Code. It was a really good training. It was in person. Of course, COVID kind of kept that from happening last year, but I envision that it will continue once in-person training resumes, or we're able to do it.
That's good feedback, Andy. Thank you. I had forgotten about that. Any other questions? So, if this committee is in agreement with this job description, and I would qualify that by saying that I believe job descriptions are living, breathing documents. They need to be flexible, and we need to be able to evolve them as we need to, as a position grows, or as we figure out what a position is specifically going to do. So this is a guideline. We'll keep council advised if we make any specific changes that are monumental, but at this point, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with this. What we would ask for is just a motion to endorse the position, and I'll talk about this in my report at the full council meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion to endorse the position?
I do, but can I ask a question?
Sure.
The little white car that this person is going to be driving, can we get a couple of those magnetic signs to put on, one on each side, that says it's a Gulf Manor car and it's code enforcement, maybe? Just to
Sure.
identify it?
Yeah, in fact, we've had discussions about that back and forth about whether we should because that car is used for other purposes, also for the police department. What we'll do, I think that's something that we should look at doing. We'll have a definitive answer for that as we continue to deploy the program. But that's a good suggestion.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion that we send this on to Finance Committee, right? Do we accept this?
To endorse it to council, then move
Endorse.
it. Well, yeah, move to finance would be fine.
Okay,
Do I have a
I'll sec-
second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
The next two items on our agenda were supposed to be addressed by Chief Campbell, but he was unable to join us tonight. So I suppose we will move that on until our next meeting.
Yeah,
and that-
actually, I'm prepared to talk about the technology. So
Okay,
if you'd like me to report on that, I can.
please do.
So the parking, I realize that's not technology. Comment on parking. As we do the Vera Road project, I know that Ms. Cheney has had discussions with Lieutenant Forrest about some parking scenarios that would require some striping changes on Vera as a test to try and help facilitate parking. That's something that I have scheduled a conversation with the road engineer for later in the week this week, and I'll report back to you guys at the next meeting. We're not at a position that we need to make a decision about that now. We have plenty of time to discuss some parking solutions for Vera, and hopefully the chief will be able to join us at the next meeting. Regarding technology, many of you were not here way back in 2013, back in the old days, prior to the village having a decent phone system. We were using tin cans and string at the time. And starting in 2015, 2016, the village installed a server system with a VoIP telephone system that took us eons into the future on some of the capability that we would be able to have in the future to serve our residents. We have not had, first of all, we didn't understand how the system works, so it's taken us a couple of years to learn features. And that was my COVID project, is to learn how to work my phone, which I have. Beyond that, there are things that our phone system will do that will enhance the security and our ability to serve our residents. So one of those is building security. We have just completed installing a new security system and have added key fob readers on many doors in the municipal building. That system, we're in the midst of expanding that. During COVID, our building has been locked down and we've not had the ability to see who's at the door, who needs to get in. Anna in particular has had to get up and walk to the door and has not been able to communicate. So with some of the COVID money that we received, we are installing cameras and communication pads at each of the entrances to the municipal building. We've also upgraded our cameras in the building. The ones at the entrance doors will be able to scan the temperature of people who are entering the building, thus eliminating our need to manually scan people when they come into the building. So those are some of the things that we've done to improve that side. On the police side, we have the ability now to start preparing that server to accept the technology needed to store the video that comes off of our police cars and to also store the eventual video that might be produced by body cams. We are not there yet. We are now doing, in fact, Stefan, or the mayor, will be in the chambers this evening where there's tons of boxes of stuff that's being installed to upgrade the server. But what we will do in phase one, which will happen in the next month, is our police cars will have the ability that when they are in a certain proximity of the municipal building or parked outside the building, data from their cams and their cars will automatically upload into the server and be sorted, which is a huge improvement over having to pull data manually out of the vehicles and upload it. Once we have that up and running and that's working correctly, the next step is the ability to purchase body cams that will do the same thing. So the issue that we will have once we make the decision to purchase the body cams is how do we deal with that data? It will be mandated to us that it will be a public record that we will have to sort and catalog and have available for view if somebody asks for that. There will be hours and hours and hours of data that someone will have to sit through and classify it or redact it. So as we're getting the um, technology together and preparing to use our server to collect this data, one of the things that we'll need to be thinking about, and this will be up to Chief Campbell to make this decision, is how do we manage that data? Is that something that we're going to expand the police clerk's position to manage? Will we need to hire someone to manage this? Will we use one of our police officers as a second job or whatever? How do we manage this information? And that's something that we'll be having that discussion internally with the chief, and then also looking to council to weigh in on that particular topic. So we have the groundwork now being built. 5 years later, we were using tin cans and string to communicate. Now we're actually talking about having the ability to deploy body cams. And I think that's exciting. We've done that within 5 to 6 years. Mr. Lanzer, I don't know, I think you've been privy to some of the discussions with the police department. Did you have anything to add to that discussion?
No, I think you covered all the big points. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's obviously an emerging best practice that police be equipped with body cameras. So I'm somewhat excited that we're implementing the technology to make that possible. And as Ron mentioned, the big issue once we get there will be how do we manage and catalog and redact all that information. I know with the city of Cincinnati, they have full-time staff whose only job is to sift through body cam footage for cataloging and redacting. So I think it's going to be something that we have to consider, but we're not there yet, but we're on the right path. So.
Yeah, I would expect that it will take, once we get the system up and running with the upload of the cruiser cam video, probably 60 to 90 days to make sure that we have the bugs completely out of that and it's working seamlessly. I think probably at the end of the second quarter, maybe going into the third quarter, we'll be able to start having specific discussions about when it makes sense to go ahead and start making the purchase. The good news is that the most expensive piece of implementing this is expensive we've already incurred. If we've played our cards right here, and I believe we have, the only thing that we will need to do is purchase the actual body cams, which I understand are around $500 to $600 a piece. So the huge investment that we need to make in technology to make this work, we've already made, and it's paid for. So, and that's a good thing.
That is great. I think a lot of us are really excited about eventually implementing body cams. So do you think that that would probably be a 2022 reasonable expectation for setting this up?
In my mind, yes, I'd like to see it happen no later than first quarter of next year. Chief Campbell, I believe, is on that same time frame. The other thing to remember too is if the implementation of what we're currently doing goes well, there's a chance that we may be able to accelerate it. I don't believe we are budgeted for that equipment in 2021. So we will need to make sure that that's appropriated funding for 2020. Andy, I think I'm right on that.
Yeah, so the project hasn't been appropriated for this year. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do it this year. At the next finance meeting, I'll be reporting some good financial news for the village. I think that if we are there technically, we have all the issues ironed out with the new system from the cruiser cams. And if there's a desire to move ahead this year, I think there'll be sufficient funding to move ahead with the purchasing of the body cameras. Again, the big question will be, however, how are we going to catalog it and redact it? And if that means that we have to bring on additional personnel, we'll have to evaluate, job descriptions and expense, employee expense. But I think that, we are in a stronger position, a much stronger position to begin 2021. We project to be in equally, if not better position to begin 2022, despite of the COVID impact on the local economy. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying, I think there's a chance it can happen this year. We just need to map it out and get a full view on what the total expense will be, both in terms of the equipment necessary and whatever additional staff will be required to do it properly.
Do we have any idea what similarly sized municipalities with body cameras do about cataloging?
That is probably a good question for Chief Campbell. I don't have that information. But we can certainly get that for the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Does anyone have a question regarding how similar size like cities handle that? Is there any like precedent for how long the video is stored, like 6 months to a year, or is it just indefinitely?
So go ahead. No, I was going to say we have a records commission, and there are guidelines that are passed down from the state of Ohio for various documents, including things like emails, texts, video. I don't know off the top of my head what those requirements are, but what we will do is as we move closer to this project, we will engage the Records Commission so that we have a specific written policy in place for the police department to follow. Did that answer your question?
I guess I was wondering how long the video is. Like, is there a legal precedent or a legal like time frame that the video has to be saved before it's deleted or made room for new video in the server?
I think Chief Campbell would be Chief Campbell was the president of the local police chiefs group for Hamilton County, and he was president of that up until I believe last year. This has been based on conversations I've had with him about it. This point has been a top point of. I think that there's not that clarity as of yet legally what the requirement is, and from what I understand based on those conversations is that it often defaults to the municipality to make that determination. I can't imagine it would be less than 2 years. I know that that's typically the time that we require public records, any other public record for the village. But Chief Campbell is the one that would be in the best position to answer that. I can't imagine it's going to be less than 6 months. I don't believe it.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's evidence in the evidence room from 30 years ago. So there's.
Actually, I think it's there from 1947.
All right. Any other questions about body cameras, technology? No?
I would remind Miss Snyder, and
Yes.
I'll remind Mr. Knipp, you still need to get your key fobs
Oh, yes.
to
Will
get in
do.
the building.
I'll
Yeah,
pay
the
you a
old,
visit soon.
old one doesn't work anymore.
All right. And then we're moving on to garbage contract negotiations then.
Okay. I had the opportunity today to get a hold of the 2013 bid document that we used um, way back when we did the current garbage contract. Um, so just to give this committee a quick overview, the village used to do its own garbage collection. And Ms. Cheney, you could probably talk more specifically about when that stopped. But initially, residents had a choice between a company called BMI and Rumpke to choose their garbage service. And apparently, the problem that the village ran into is there were a lot of people who weren't happy about the village no longer doing garbage service, and a lot of people just didn't get garbage service. And garbage started piling up, and it became a problem, and council had to take another look at it. So there have been two, I think it's two, Sharon, cycles where the village acts as the negotiator to get the best rate for garbage service for the residents. So the relationship for garbage service is between the residents and Rumpke. The village's point in this is to ensure that there are specific services that are included in the contract and then to get the lowest cost possible that we can for the residents. Residents then pay for their garbage service on their water bill, and this program is mandatory for rental units of 4 units or less, and then all other single family residences in the village. Anything over 4 units, the village does not provide garbage service to those properties. Those individual properties have to negotiate their own contract to get dumpsters on the property and so forth. The current contract started in 2013. It was a 5-year contract. We had the ability to extend it 3 additional years. So back in 2018, we looked at whether or not we should extend it or renegotiate. At the time, there were problems with oil prices going sky high, in addition to the cost of other services increasing exponentially. And the actual cost of doing a renegotiation at that time would have doubled all of our garbage costs. So we decided at that point in time that it was better to take a 3% increase year over year to extend the contract for through 2021. So where that puts us is on October 1st, we need to have a new contract in place for garbage services and we're assuming with Rumpke but at that time. So here within the next couple of months, well, we are going to start having conversations with Rumpke. We will put out a request for proposal out in the marketplace in general. If there are other garbage collection services that wish to bid, they'll be able to do that. But our first step is to become familiar with the requirements and the contract that we currently have. Long story short, what I will do in the next, probably within the week, is send each of the committee members here the bid document that was originally sent out to Rumpke in 2013 that lists the things at that time that the village was requiring in garbage services. There's a lot to read. I want to say there's 30 pages of stuff. So it's going to take a while for everybody to get through that, which is why I want to get it in your hands as soon as possible. We probably won't start having this discussion March at the earliest, maybe until April, to start actually making decisions on the kinds of things that we want to include in our discussion. One of the things that I think we definitely need to look at is recycling our yard waste, which was not included and wasn't a thing back in 2013 as it is now. We need to take a look at how we do our leaf collection, how we pick up brush. Should we contract with Rumpke to do those kinds of things? Those are some of the things that I would like the committee and the administration to take a look at for the next contract. Yeah. So that's that. Do you have questions about that process or?
Looking forward to reading those exciting 30 pages of garbage.
About the garbage and
Yes.
recycling.
And the Hamilton
Great.
County Solid Waste District has offered to assist us in the negotiations. They are kind of the clearinghouse of every single community's recycling solid waste contract. So they probably have the best idea of what rates are, what services are becoming best practice, and that sort of thing, which I think will be beneficial if we bring them in.
I can give all of you an insight into why we gave up our garbage collection years ago. If you want to hear it, it won't take very long. The reason being is because we were in the red and we were looking for ways to save money and get us out of the hole. So garbage collection was costing us, I believe, $200,000 a year to keep our own. And so we looked at bidding this out. The mistake that we made at that time, and I can tell you I didn't like the way they did it. We didn't contract with Rumpke so that people did not pay for it directly themselves. Well, we didn't contract with Rumpke so that Gulf Manor would pay for it. What we did is have each resident pay individually. The problem being is that people didn't want to pay for it because they used to get it free. So they were dumping it at the end of streets. So we had a mess on our hand. So that is the reason we went with putting the garbage collection on our water bill, because on your water bill, you have to pay for it or you don't get water. So garbage is added to the water bill. So what happened is that we pay it, but the water company sends us the money. So it comes out okay at the end of the year. But that's how that all came about. And also we had set out service too. Our maintenance guys used to set cans out for people. And that was another reason they were angry, because Rumpke won't do that. So that's the reason.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Sharon. It looks like we are getting pretty close to council time. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
There we go, Rob. You're first, second. Way to go. All right. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Oh, wait.
you.
No, I need an all in
Everybody for your
favor. I need an all in favor. Everyone in favor? All right.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.